Hello and welcome to the Panorama Now at Noon radio show and Facebook Live show. And we're excited tonight and today because we have Meg Damascus with us.
Demakas.
Demakas.
That's okay.
As in making. And she's the founder of the Family Folklore Foundation. And now, as in the past, she's been an illustrator, an author, and now soon to be playwright. So welcome to the show. Thank you for being here, Meg.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for letting me share some of the things we're going to be doing in our group.
Well, I've always been interested in the World's Fair homes, and that's what your focus is on this year and next year. And I have toured them, and I have written about them. And a lot of people aren't, believe it or not, a lot of people still aren't aware of the World's Fair homes, and that's what your book is focusing on, and that's what her play is going to be focusing on. And real quick, I wanted to go through the 5 homes. They were moved over here from the World Fair on a barge from Chicago. And they came here to Beverly Shores on a barge. And one of them is the Cypress Log Cabin. Then all these homes have a story, big long story. There's the House of Tomorrow that's circular and made out of aluminum. There's the Florida home that's a pink home, looks like a Florida home. There's the Armco Pharaoh, which is made out of steel. And then there's the Rosone home that's made out of stone, basically stone. So these are all very interesting, a part of our history, a part of what people like to see at the Indiana Dunes. And we're going to start off with a book from your brother.
Right. My brother, Daniel Craig Granfield, was curious about how those houses got over here, and he was a landscape architect, worked at Chester Inc. in Valpo, and he did a paper on for the Historical Society. He did a study and a documentary interviewing some of the people that were there at the time. We were in the Metal House when we did the interviews, and it's a very scientific treatment that he has. And so family folklore, what we're trying to do is make it so it's family friendly. And we are going through it and illustrating and breaking down the meanings of different things like what is a block and tackle, things like that, these are terms that he was aware of. And
now the World's Fair was when? What year?
It was 1933. It started on May 27th when a certain star was in the sky. It was called Arctura, and it's part of the Big Dipper. And it was very bright, and they made a big deal about this star. And it brought in the fair brought in so much money that Roosevelt talked them into doing it in 1934 too. So they did it 2 years. And they made $4 million.
And do you know why? I was, just curious. I know we got a lot to get covered, but you know why it was never done again?
You mean in Chicago?
No, period.
You mean
the World's Fair?
They've had them in Seattle. They had them in New York. They've had them all over the place.
Oh, okay.
But not in Chicago.
Okay.
It was a big job.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And I wanted to tell you that my grandfather, Edwin Granfield from Kansas, Manhattan, Kansas. He did get to go to the World Fair, and when we used to go in the summertime, he would sit on that wraparound porch, and talk to us about it. So, we had the seeds already in us to find this interest.
Yeah, this is part of your childhood.
Yes, and then it was interesting because I actually have a theory that's copyrighted. It's called the writing retrieval theory, where the more you write, the more you find out about yourself. And so when I've been doing this study, I forgot that our house was a Cooper home. It was brought in on a flatbed truck, and they did the exact same thing that they did with those homes.
Moving them.
Yeah, they moved it in, and they used the jacks and the cribbing and all this stuff that we didn't know what anything meant. So that was interesting.
And that was something from your childhood that
we
you witnessed,
yeah.
you saw, and we were talking about this earlier, and it had an influence on you, and here you are doing all this other stuff because of something that happened to you in your child.
That's right.
Childhood,
That's
yes.
right. And I was a teacher for many years. I work over at IU also. I teach an online course in the College of Arts and Science. But I'm so happy that we have this, the official book of views. It's the official guide of the fair.
That's amazing.
Show that.
That is amazing.
It's 90 years old, and we have permission from archives.org because it's 90 years old. We can use it.
I think the statute of limitations is gone for that.
We have a coffee table book that's in the making on canva.org. We're all sharing information in our group to know what to put, and then also we're going to perform a play. It's a live radio play.
Yes.
We're going to wear a little bit of a costume, and that is we're going to dress up as the houses. It's going to be called If Houses Could Talk, or Houses of the Future, or whatever. We haven't worked that out yet.
Yeah, and that's coming up next spring.
Yes, and so we're doing a study.
Yeah, here's a picture of the log cabin. This is amazing. I'm just so happy you brought this.
I know. And they wanted to have something as good as the Ferris wheel, which they had in the 1893 World's Fair in Chicago. And so they came up with the Sky Ride. And the Sky Ride had two towers that were 600 feet high. And they named them Amos and Andy, you know, from the minstrel show. And that, you know, you could take an elevator up, and then you could go clear across. The fair was 400 square, well, it's almost 500 square acres, and it was on the shore and on Northerly Island, which they built up from the ashes of the Chicago fire in 1871, and a lot of other stuff too. They had to do a lot of fill because they had to dredge. They brought sand in from Indiana too, but they built up this island, and then they had ferries that would come over there, and it was as far north as the planetarium. There it is. Good.
Yeah, what's that? What'd you call that?
The Sky Ride.
Sky Ride.
Yeah, that was really cool. And it was as far north as the planetarium, and as far south as the Science and Industry Museum. So, and it was on the shore and on this island. And I wanted to show them a little bit about these photos here. During World War I, Americans were very against science because they made chemical bombs. They killed 900,000 people in World War I with chlorine and all different kinds of bombs. And so they were kind of down on science. But meanwhile, Henry Ford, with the plant of making, he had a plant, he had an exhibit place there where he had an assembly line where they made 200 cars a day, and then they took them out and they moved them around. They had a track, and so they showed science all over the place because they wanted to demonstrate it was really good what we can do with science.
And what your point is though, that they created the World's Fair to get Americans more interested in science and more interested in the type of displays that they had. Right,
because we had an industrial revolution. Not everybody. They said that in the 30s, our society was not reflective. It was before television. You know, like every day, you know, we've got our phones, we've got everything. Watch gigantic televisions. We know everything that's going on all over the world. Back then, they didn't know what was going on. So
well,
this
newspapers.
Yeah, they did have the paper, but it wasn't the same. And this fair was gigantic. So this was. I just wanted to show these pictures that from the 20s we had the Depression. No, the Roaring 20s. That's when they had prohibition. It wasn't against a lot of drink; it was against a lot of sell, and everybody was having a great time doing the Charleston. But then October
Roaring 20s.
Yeah, October. I think it was 31st, 1929. There was the crash, and then everybody was broke.
Yes.
And they had no jobs, and there was a lot of suicides, and meanwhile, Al Capone he used the same business strategy as Henry Ford. He had middle management He had everything broken down.
Oh,
into,
I believe that.
Yes,
It's
suburbs.
It's a business.
Yeah, like all over the world, he had a network all over the country, and then they had the St. Valentine's Day massacre. Things were terrible in Chicago. Not only was there the depression.
You mean after this?
Yeah, there was the depression and there was crime. And then Elliot Ness, he didn't have that big of an impact, but the Secret Six did. And if you want to learn a whole lot about the World's Fair, I recommend the book called Al Capone and the 1933 World's Fair, where he explains that there were 6 millionaires that had more money than Al Capone. And so because they had more money, it gave him extra power. And yeah, they broke him. And so then it made way for our fair, but the fair had no money. It was the first fair that did not have government backing. And so they were so smart. What they would do is each time they'd start something new, they'd sell tickets. Oh, we're going to be starting to put in some landscaping.
Oh.
And they'd sell tickets and they had money to do the next thing.
Oh, I didn't know that. And we have a blog actually on the Panorama website about, I think it's 6 or 7 things that came out of the World's Fair that were
the way they utilize
that
things
were invented, and that we wouldn't have them if it wouldn't have been for the World's Fair. And I'm sure there's more stories besides the ones we have.
Well, for instance, when Chrysler saw how Ford was doing so great, they said, we want an exhibit hall. And so then the guys that were in charge, they're like, we can have as many exhibits as we want, but you have to pay for them. So it became a commercial enterprise.
Oh.
Yeah. And they sold tickets. They were only 50 cents a piece, because everybody was broke. They'd go home to no heat. They only had gas coming out of their stoves. They were freezing cold and terrible clothes. They didn't have any food, but they'd go to that fair, and it was like, it was also called the Rainbow City because they used neon lights. They talk about the copyright. The copyright
that
was down
probably one of the first times neon lights had ever been used.
And they had a palette of 24 colors. And it was with the idea of, in the future, all the houses are going to be all this color. They had this idea.
Well, speaking of future, the House of Tomorrow actually has an airplane hangar because they thought back then in 1933 that our houses of the future we would be using airplanes instead of cars.
Yeah.
And it's circular. It's made out of aluminum. I thought that was interesting, and it actually has a hangar.
So I don't know if you want to show that, but those are the parameters. That's the planetarium, and then here's the Science and Industry Museum. And then we also have to tell you about Sally Rand, who made the fair make money. I mean, because she was a fan dancer, and that's all she had on was fans.
Oh, yeah. That was a big thing back then.
She, nobody would let her in, and so he was supposed to be her agent. He saw a horse, a white horse. He put her on it. He got a little boat, and she went over by the French Paris area, got off on her horse, got up on the stage, and they told her, go home, get everything all straight because you're going to be working here from now on. And she really made a
So how
big
long
success.
was it?
What?
How long was the fair?
2 years.
2 years.
Well, it was in the summer, and then the people that designed it, one of them, his name was Major, I forget his last name, but he was in World War II. He was accustomed to setting up camp and taking it down fast. And so he knew we were going to have to set this fair up fast and then we're going to have to take it down. And so then when they started having people make these houses, they weren't really made to last.
Right.
They were made to look good. But so we brought them over here to Indiana, and there's been some problems.
Oh yeah, each one of these has been rehabilitated and fixed up, practically almost redone. And it's nice that the historic preservation keeps track of these homes. They have a tour once a year. And
we will be going.
And Friday night, the night before the tour, they have a talk,
Are you going to go? I'm not
Yeah.
going. Oh, good.
Yeah.
Take good notes for us.
And that's at the Indiana Dunes. It's
You're now in family folklore, you know.
It's $15 a ticket. I do believe that when my husband and I went, it didn't cost.
Yeah, I thought it was free.
Yeah, so well now
They have to make money. See, they're doing that.
Yeah.
I feel like I got ripped off a little
and
bit.
it's so interesting. To me, it's just I just love the whole concept.
Well, I just spent a lot of money going to see this.
Uh-huh.
And it was terrible inside. It was just awful.
yeah.
No, I don't think I spent any money, but it was still bad inside. And it's like, yes, but it's going to get better.
Exactly. Well,
But see, it was a way for them.
so now you can say
They're doing it.
I saw that house when it was empty.
They were still using that psychology on us. And so,
Yeah, this is the house of tomorrow. I'll
so
hold it up
14
again.
of us are going to be going to that tour September 30th. And we'll work in little groups, learning, we're going to be having our listening caps on to find out about these different houses because...
And so the talk is Friday the 29th, and tickets are still available, but the tour is sold out.
And so this is a picture of some of the people in our group.
Mm-hmm.
And we have about 50. And here we are trouncing along.
Have you decided who the actors are going to be?
It's everybody that wants to be it. No, it's not decided yet. But we haven't decided what all we're going to be doing. You know, like we'll probably have a newscaster set up where we'll have somebody that's talking about everything, and then there'll be different people that are coming in. And so, but we're all supposed to. We don't have to, but we have a lot of artists in the group, and so there's the House of Tomorrow. That's my rendition, and we have people all over, and they send us
This is
photographs
oil.
of them. No, acrylic.
Acrylic?
Yeah, and so with grant money, we got the easels and the acrylics and all that stuff. And so they send us pictures of how they're coming along.
Maybe you can have 4 or 5 people be one house, and then 4 or 5 people be another house, and switch it back and forth.
Yeah, and they can also talk to me. Like we're gonna have the girl with the Barbie doll house dressed up as Barbie doing the Flamingo Florida house. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we might have a little.
If houses could talk,
Yes.
that's what we think it's going to be.
And they developed asbestos board, fiber board, drywall, plywood. These were all new things
All invented because of the
because it was fast.
World's Fair.
Yeah, they couldn't use carved wood. They couldn't have people come. It had to be put up fast. So to show you how we're preparing.
Yeah, I'm going to repeat those again. There's corrugated steel that was used for the first time. There's a 1-inch lap weld that was used for the first time. There's wallpaper and other interior finishes. There's asbestos board and dense fiber board that was all invented because of the World's Fair. And I'm sure there's a ton of other inventions that have come out of the World's Fair that, if you did research or we looked into it, you'd find a lot of things that came out of that fair.
And some of the things that we've been doing in preparing, well, some of the houses, there was more than those 6. There was a lot of houses that came over, and a lot of them came on a flatbed. So that's
And what happened? So those
they were deconstructed and then reconstructed.
I mean, are any of them still standing?
Not many. Just they were. No, I don't think that there's that many. There might be a few. This shows one painting at work. It shows it's not finished at all. In fact, you'd think it wasn't ever going to be finished, but it will be. Okay, so we wanted to find out what it was like to be on a steamboat because steam tugboats is what brought the barges over. So we went over on steamboat rides at Cedar Lake.
At Cedar Lake. Yeah.
And we used grant money for that.
Okay, and so
we
what
found
did you
out
learn?
it's hot.
What'd you learn?
It's hot on the boat. And I asked the stupid question. I said, but where do they get the water? And they went like this. From the lake. Where are they getting the water to make this steam?
Well, if you've got bad water or polluted water, you wouldn't want to do that.
And so then we go to the
not that stupid
Lake
of a-
County Fair because one reason you asked why don't they have World's Fairs anymore? They've been replaced by county fairs and state fairs. It's like so we go to the fairs. The group of us here we are with the fish. In fact, we're looking forward to going on Saturday. at 4 o'clock.
Mm.
We like to watch the pig races. That's
Oh yeah, the pig races are popular in Lake County Fair.
and every year our group does a different study, and so one of the things we're going to have is how the houses are owned by the Indiana Dunes National Park. And so we have studied and produced plays and been at like the Paul Douglas Center, the Visitor Center. We've been at the Visitor Center in the Indiana Dunes State Park.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of people don't know that there is a separate visitor center for the state park.
Yeah, and it's very nice. In there.
Yes, it is, but they call it has a different name because we get them mixed up when we do the calendar for Panorama. We have to make sure we have the right visitor center because there's two of them, and it can be confusing, and a lot of people don't know that. They really don't know.
And we've been going on this for 3 years. It's from Michigan, one of the universities in Michigan. It's the SS, I'm forgetting the name of that boat, but they check the quality of the Great Lakes, the water quality. So, and that's free. We get on it, we're out in the lake. Yeah, we're out in the lake for about 2 hours.
Next time you do that,
I'll let you know.
Let me know. If I don't go, I'll at least have an article about it.
Oh, they have wonderful, and then you get to do all the tests. They send a little cup of water. Well, they send
you mentioned
a rope down and just see how long and how deep it can go. You can still see, and then they'll say, "This water's good enough to drink," and we're like, "I don't think I'm gonna drink it."
Well, it depends on where you're at. I think.
So one of the
speaking
places,
of the lake, though, I believe I've got this right. It's the deepest interior lake in the world.
Oh, I like that.
Yes, and there's parts of it that are almost 300 feet deep.
Whoa.
Yeah, it is, and it's the largest inland lake in the world too.
And Miller is the most southern point.
Yes,
with 0 elevation. I was going to show you that I think we're going to be performing at IUN. And
in university on Broadway.
Yeah, because we want to introduce the kids to a top 10 university, system. And they have a new main stage theater that holds 500. And
Have you started the playwright part? Have you started? Yeah. Okay. So you have a book that's going to be published, printed, and online.
Yes.
And the name of that book is?
It's called the 1933 World's Fairy Tales.
Okay.
With a dash, fair-y, fairy tales. Because we're going to have input from different ages of people that want to write. And they also will write their part of the play. Because I used to have people, they'd say, "Oh, but I wish I had more lines." And I'm like, "Give me more lines." And so then they give me more lines. And then this shows when we were at the Opera House in Valpo, we had 2 sellout crowds. Because we have people in our group that, they just love doing this. And they're also...
They're volunteers.
They're volunteers, and we're all kind of on the spectrum of, we're very dramatic. Very dramatic and friendly and creative, and we like to research. But here's canva.org. This is a wonderful way you can make brochures, letters. We're making our coffee table book here, and it's also going to be online, and we can hook up the different documentaries that we have, like from when Dan interviewed this guy who wrote a book, Jim Morrow. This is a wonderful book about Beverly Shores. And
does it have the homes in there?
Probably.
Yeah, probably.
Everything.
Yeah.
And he lived in the Metal House.
I went on the Beverly Homes tour. I wish they would do that again.
Oh, you mean all the homes? Yeah.
Well, yeah.
They got a lot of nice homes. Yeah. Other than these.
Yeah. Yes. And I don't know. I'm sure Beverly Shores Women's Club or something like that. And I just love it all has a certain style. I just love the tour. And as you can see, all these homes have a specific look to them.
He's got all those renderings. He must have gotten the floor plans, like
Yeah, the floor plans are on here, and I wish I'd do that again. But
And he's the one, I was showing you this book. These are all, I got them either on thrift.com or on Amazon. This one is the World's Fair collection, so collectibles, and the first half is 1933 World's Fair, and it's his collection. It's Jim Morrow's collection, and he's the one that Dan interviewed. Plus another guy named, I think his name was Gregor.
so who was the guy? It was the developer, wasn't it?
Bartlett.
Bartlett, yes.
Yeah.
It was his idea to bring the homes over, and he was going to have,
Promote.
it was going to be a promotion for his development.
Yeah, because the people from Chicago, they would come on the South Shore, but they go all the way up to Michigan to cool off, because this was before air conditioning, like the World's Fair.
So they were gonna- they were
had
gonna-
air conditioning. Remember?
Right.
In the House
They
of
were going
Tomorrow.
to be summer homes.
The House of Tomorrow
So
had
it was
air
all-
conditioning, and they're like, whoa.
Yeah, so here's a picture of the House of Tomorrow on this side, and then here's a picture
Of it coming over.
of
Or one of them coming over.
across on the barge. That's really nice.
That's what I'm working
But
on.
the development didn't work. They didn't,
Because of the
it wasn't-
Depression.
It was, okay, it was the
Yeah,
depression.
it was the Depression. They
Yeah.
brought him over, but I think he bought him for very cheap.
Yes,
'cause
yes.
When you can buy a house and move it, and you can buy it for like $100, but moving it is like 100,000. And then these
Right.
houses, once they came over, they made log. They call them corduroy roads. You know, we might remember that from like Lewis and Clark. But they would take the house off the dock, and then they'd have these logs, and they'd roll the house with those horses. They didn't have many tractors
and
back then. They were poor.
There was going to be a casino.
Oh yeah.
But having them be a summer home is one of the reasons why all the homes have that style, that look, because it was kind of like a Florida home in a way.
Right.
Yes.
And the floor. That was the only home that was built by a state. And that was to get people in Chicago interested in moving to Florida. And interesting, my other grandparents did move to Homestead, Florida, and they did have a flamingo pink stucco house with tile. You know,
There's a lot of them
from Chicago
Yeah.
that moved down there.
Yes.
And I'm writing a children's book about our family of 6 kids, my parents and my dog, our dog going down there to visit them. We learned a lot there. But I wanted to show you, I know you're going to do
There's
this, but
Dorothy Buell.
I found a picture of this. You know, this was in the 1950s, before, you know, when you had seat belts so the kids are safe. There's 3 of us. We've got Indian headdresses on, and we're standing in front of a house that's on rails. It's like, what were they thinking? That thing could have fallen on us.
Was it being moved or?
Yeah, it was being moved to the foundation. They were just moving it over there, and they're like, "Here, have another picture."
So this is what started it all.
And started it all. And this is another good book. It's got a lot of photos. You love this one too. It's got photos of every single thing. They had
And this one's called The Century of Progress, and the tour and the when the preservation committee refers to the homes, they call it the Century of Progress.
They had about, I think, 100 acres set aside for kids. They had zoos and activities, amusement parks.
I mean, for the
Children.
for the Bartlett development.
No, at the fair.
Oh, at the fair.
Yeah, and they had things from all over the world. But you know, sometimes they always have those
Here's a picture of
beauty queens that are
elephants.
all the beauty queens that are news commentators, and you know, I'm always like, yeah, well, they were beauty queens. But in 1933, they wanted to have a woman's building, and they didn't do it.
Wow.
They didn't do it. They put them over like at a hotel, and so I'm like, right on, you beautiful women that are representing all of us, normal people. So we didn't talk about this. Oh, we did talk about the sky ride. Did we?
Yes,
they were
a little
named
bit.
Amos and Andy. I like to watch those shows with the invisible glass. Do you ever watch? Okay, so yeah, 600 feet in the air.
It says workers built cars in the assembly room at the General Motors building in 1933.
The men would have loved that they had the Chrysler building, the Ford building, and the other building.
This is one of the displays.
One of the exhibit halls. Yeah.
Wow.
And they paid for it. So the people that designed this fair were brilliant.
Yes, and I bet people came back
Over and over and
yeah,
over.
Yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah, over
because
and
there's a
over.
lot to see. That's amazing.
Like I say, it was one of the few fairs that made money.
There's a
most,
picture of
like
the
if
fort.
you have the Olympics in your city, you usually don't make any money.
Yes.
They made money.
Yes.
They came out ahead. Now, so far, they said they made $40 million, but I believe their profit was $400,000. And I don't know if that was their dollars or our dollars, but whatever dollars,
It was their dollars
money.
back then.
So to us, it'd be a lot more. They also had the Goodyear blimp.
Yeah, here's their blimp.
You name
picture
it,
of
they had it. So my grandfather, oh my gosh, he just loved it. He loved going there.
And talked about it.
He was in his 40s then, because he was born in 1889.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I guess he's the only one that went.
Here's an overview picture of the fair, and this is only just a small section. And you can see how many people were there, and this is just
So we'll keep you posted about our play when we have.
Yes.
We call it live. We call it a live radio show because we don't necessarily memorize our lines, but we put a little bit of scenery, a little bit of costume on for the live audience. And and I think it's not going to cost to go. Maybe I'll make it $1. I mean, it's going to be inexpensive.
I'll make it $5.
Make it $5. Yeah. All right, I'll make it $5. And it'll be fun. And we're also going to involve people that want to, because that's the other thing, is they brought in other people. We're going to see if any school kids want to create houses of the future that are green.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
And then they can just stand up and say, this is what I made, or this is a picture of something I made.
Mm-hmm.
And we figure that'll bring more people too.
Yeah. You
We're
could
probably
have a contest.
It's probably going to be
You have
April 19th at 11 a.m. That's probably when it's going to be. If not, we'll
Look
let
at
you know.
that. That's
Yeah,
cute.
did a lot.
Kids eating a big, huge pretzel. Evidently, pretzels were probably just invented right then.
Well, you had it on your list of all the things. I happened to check that out.
You did?
Cracker Jacks. I saw Cracker
Yes,
Jacks.
and bubblegum was one of them. I can't. I should have brought that with me.
Yeah, I don't know how I.
I can't remember. It was weird. The things that came out of the World's Fair is stuff that you wouldn't imagine. Wow, they had a lot of people.
I didn't know.
Oh yeah, you're not in the Wi-Fi, and my phone's being used. So
Is that good?
family.
4 o'clock? Is that good? 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay.
Family, Folklore
Foundation.
Foundation, and I believe you're going to be doing the World's Fair Homes for 2 years, if you include this year and next year. But like I say, it's a topic I'm just very, very fascinated with. Matter of fact, you can go to my YouTube channel. Just type in YouTube and Panorama Now, and I have actually a video of 2 of the homes from the beach side. And you can see a little bit of the log cabin at the beginning, but the beach side of the homes is very, very hard to get.
I think on YouTube you can see Dan Granfield's documentary too.
Oh,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes.
And here, I don't know if you want to take
Sure,
a picture
sure.
of that or whatever.
Yeah, I'll take a picture.
I was waxing eloquent.
Yeah, this was June 22nd this year, 2023. An article about the world's fairy tales in the Times, and I'm going to take a picture of that. I think, actually, I think I saved the link for this because I knew you were going to be coming on the show, and we're going to have a lot to talk about. Meg Demakas, and just all kinds of creative juices flowing and creative
well, something that's interesting.
outlets.
My grandpa that I told you about went to the fair. He was college educated. So was my grandma in Kansas. Kansas, yeah. And then my other grandpa, his dad was an architect. He was self-taught. I guess people were self-taught in the 1800s. And he designed a lot of buildings in Beatrix, Nebraska, all schools, homes for the feeble-minded. I mean, government buildings. He did a lot. So I have a lot. I have to do this.
This is the original program book.
Isn't that wonderful?
Here's, I mean, it's just a lot of illustrations, a lot of pictures. Of course.
And I bumped them up. I have them online.
Yeah, the illustrations are because these things weren't built yet. So you have to illustrate it. And here's an illustration of the house of tomorrow as they thought it was going to look like before it was built, which is interesting because it doesn't quite match that perfectly, but it's similar. And I believe this right here is this the Florida house or is this the Rosestone house?
They changed their names. See,
Yeah.
this one is quite famous with that
Right.
orange background.
Right, that's the house of tomorrow. It's a circular home. I was looking for some of the other homes in here, but it's all illustrated. So they had to get this done and printed before these things were built.
Yeah, they were under the wire, and meanwhile there
yeah.
was Al Capone, and people were so hungry on the outside. They were seeing all. Oh, so I forgot to tell you. So this other guy, Gregor, he was busily using a snowplow to get the sand off of. I don't know if you call that Lakeshore Drive, but he was like, I think he said he was a teenager, and he looked out and he saw a barge with a house on it, and he said, "The World's Fair is coming." And
Here's
that's
a
great.
picture of Pat's Blue Ribbon. We talked about that on our other show. Pat's Blue Ribbon is, obviously since 1933, but it might have been invented because of the World's Fair. I mean, there's so much that happened.
See, look, I bumped them all up.
Uh-huh.
In case you want some good pictures.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I'm crazy.
you can email those to me.
I'm a crazy person.
Well, most creatives are. And that we
See, don't they look good like that? Yeah, I thought that
we focus on the creative. We have authors and actors and writers and musicians. Here's a picture of the Goodyear blimp. Of course, that's again. And this whole book is illustrated.
I know. Every single page.
Yes.
I think it costs like $40. I'm not sure. I have to look back. I feel like it costs 40. It might have been less. But I think they have them. I think there's some more there if anybody wants to buy them. It's either, I think it's on Amazon.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
It's so beautiful. It's like it's watercolored.
Yes.
They don't make stuff like that. That's like 24 palette of colors.
Well, this has been awfully interesting. Do you have a website we can tell them?
Yes, I do. Famfolkfound.org. It's the first syllable from each thing. So famfolkfound.org.
Found.org.
And then we're on Facebook.
And what's your Facebook? How can I find you on
Family
Facebook?
Folklore.
Family Folklore on Facebook.
And then you can look up me, Meg Demakas.
Yes.
I've got like a lot of pages. I don't know how to get rid of them, but
Well, we don't want to get rid of them.
But I find that it's much easier to write about stuff that really happened. Like I do a thing where you probably don't know, I do a historical persona of Jean Stratton Porter. Yes, I have a book. I've got a children's book. I've got it in Spanish, and I dress up like her and I wax eloquent. But that was easier than writing about what it was like to go visit in Florida, because I can't that's why I have that writing retrieval theory. It brings it out.
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to learn how to write, I have classes.
Or if you want to learn how to volunteer and be a part of the program.
Yes, we'd love to have you.
I'm sure there's a lot you can learn. There's a lot that's going to be happening here.
We did auditions one time. We had all kinds of people come in and we're like, you're hired, you're hired, you're hired. There's no money, but you're
Well, I think we're about out of time.
Okay.
So Meg Demakas, Family Folklore Foundation, and right here in Northwest Indiana, we're going to have a play next spring, and we'll probably have you back to talk about the play.
Okay, well, thank you for having me.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right.